In 2018, in the final game of the final round of Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica, Luis Scott Vargas had to mulligan down to 4 cards, essentially sealing his fate before a single card had even been played. And from this, the London Mulligan rule was born. Under the London Mulligan, you always draw 7 cards, then put a number equal to your mulligans on the bottom. It makes mulliganing feel less punishing, but it doesn't change the maths. Mulligans have taken various forms throughout Magic's history, and for most players there's a general belief that taking a mulligan is bad or unlucky. I'm sure you've all heard someone at your Friday Night Magic complain that they're the unluckiest soul on earth because of how badly they drew. What's more likely is that they don't understand the maths behind mulligans, and that's what this video is going to look at: likelihoods. Let's start with an example. We can probably agree that an all spells hand or an all lands hand is an auto mulligan. Same with a hand of 1 spell and 6 lands, or 1 land and 6 spells. If we assume a standard deck has 24 lands and 36 spells, how often do you think we can expect to see an auto mulligan? It's about every 6 games. 6.5 to be more precise, and I think a lot of people find that surprising. We can see that 0 lands happens about 2.2% of the time, 7 lands about 0.09% of the time, 1 land about 12.1% of the time, and 6 lands about 1.25%. That totals 15.6% of games where you'll draw an auto mulligan, or about once every 6.5 games. So taking a mulligan drawn poorly, it isn't actually unlucky, it's fairly normal. It's baked into the game, for better or for worse. And learning how to do it right won't just make you a better player, it'll make you feel better when those disaster hands show up. Now, every deck mulligans differently based on what it's trying to achieve, but they all do it similarly. So to illustrate, we need a baseline, and for that I've taken this Dimir Aggro deck from MTG Top 8 that's been performing well in Standard lately. There's a link in the description. Now, you don't need to recognise the cards, just know that there are 25 lands, 21 creatures, 9 instants and sorceries, and 5 other spells. So there's 35 spells in total. Now, it's still going to run into those auto mulligan situations like any other deck, but when we start thinking about the grey areas, the maybe hands, we need to know what the average hand looks like, and to do that we're going to use something that sounds scary and looks terrifying: maths. Stick with me, it's easier than you think. So to work out the average number of a certain type of card in your opening hand, you take the number of cards you drew, multiply it by the number of those cards in your deck divided by your total deck size. So for example, if we draw 7 cards from a 60 card deck with 25 lands, it looks something like this. And you can see that performing this calculation, the average number of lands in a 7 card hand is 2.91. That's our expected land count when we draw off the top at the start of the game. So if we do that for the rest, we end up with 2.45 creatures, 1.05 instants and sorceries, and 0.58 other spells. Now these numbers are really useful, especially when we are considering or making mulligans. If your average hand doesn't support your deck's goals, you've probably built the deck wrong. But we don't always draw the average. Auto mulligans aside, most hands fall into grey zones. I'm sure you all can relate to looking at a hand and thinking, oh, this one works as long as I draw a 3rd land by turn 3, or I just need one of my 2-drops to curve out. So let's take that 2 lands hand and ask, what are the chances I draw my 3rd land by turn 3? This is where hypergeometric distribution comes in. I know it sounds scary, it looks scary, it's not, but if this kind of maths is new to you, don't panic. There are calculators online where you just plug in the numbers, like this one I'm using from AetherHub.com. There's a link in the description and it's totally free. For this example, we've drawn 7 cards, so there are 53 unknowns left in the deck. That's our population size. We're drawing 2 more cards before turn 3 on the play. That's the sample size. There are 23 cards that we can draw that allow us to hit a land drop in turn 3. That's the successes in population. And we want to draw 1 of them. That's the successes in the sample. We hit calculate, and just like that we see there is a 68% chance of hitting your 3rd land by turn 3. So that's better than 2/3 of the time, and it sounds like a keep. But do we? I just told you the average hand is 2.91 lands. So surely if we just mulligan, we can get a 3-land opener fairly often, right? Well, let's work it out using the same process, but this time accounting for a full deck. We have a population size of 60, which is our full deck, a sample size of 7, our opening hand, 25 lands in the deck, of which we want to draw 3. We hit calculate and we see here that the result is 31.2% to get exactly 3 lands, or 62.5% to get 3 lands or more. The more than 3 lands is getting into difficult territory as well, because now we're going to have to put 1 card back. So when you mulligan, you open yourself up to every land combination, including those auto mulligans we talked about earlier. So the 2-lander with a 68% chance to hit land 3 by turn 3 is actually more reliable than a fresh hand trying to hit 3 lands up front. So hypergeometric distribution might sound scary, but it's incredibly useful for a lot of other things. Let's say you're playing a combo deck, or you need to find at least 1 copy of a critical card you run 4 copies of. What are the odds that it shows up in your opening 7? Well, that again is just a maths question. Population size and sample size stay the same. Successes in population changes to 4, successes in sample changes to 1, and we hit calculate and we can see it's about 39.95% to see at least 1 copy of that critical card in your opening hand. Now say you don't see it, so you've drawn 7 cards and that card is not there, and you hope to draw it by turn 3 on the play when it's going to be relevant. Go back to the maths, population size is back down to 53, sample size is 2 for drawing it on the play, successes in the population is still 4, we want to draw 1, hit calculate, and that chance drops to just 14.7%. So every mulligan trades card advantage for consistency, and sometimes that trade makes your hand look better but play out worse. If you absolutely need a certain card in your opening hand, it's better to mulligan than hope you draw it naturally off the top. And the good thing about understanding the maths is you can make those sort of decisions without feeling bad about it. You just know it's the mathematically correct thing to do. In an opening hand, most decks are looking for a good combination of meaningful lands and castable spells. Don't just goal twist your deck, run the numbers. The practice you do off the table makes all the difference on it, and when you understand the maths, mulligans hurt a lot less. Use these probability calculators in your own deck and let me know how you got on in the comments. You might be surprised how often you're keeping hands you shouldn't or tossing ones that are mathematically fine.